You know it's destroying you. The sleepless nights, the waiting for a message that never comes, the way your body feels sick with both craving and dread. You tell yourself to walk away, you swear you won't go back, and yet you do, again and again. The thought of letting go feels unbearable, as if cutting the tie would mean losing not only the other person, but losing yourself. This is the trap of trauma bond and emotional addiction, where pain and love become so entwined you can no longer tell them apart. The strangest part is that you're fully aware. You know the relationship is toxic. You know the promises are empty. You even hear your own voice inside saying, "This is not love." But awareness does not break the chain. The moment they return with a message, a glance, or a hint of affection, your resolve melts. The cycle repeats, and you're left asking, why am I still here? Why can't I let go, even when I know better? It's because your body remembers something deeper than logic. Emotional addiction is not about weakness or lack of willpower. It's about your nervous system clinging to what once felt like survival. The bond, no matter how painful, carries a twisted familiarity. For someone who grew up equating love with inconsistency, chaos, or absence, stability feels foreign. Pain feels like home. And so, when faced with the choice of leaving, your system doesn't just resist, it panics. To let go feels like death, because part of you believes survival depends on staying. Think of it like a chemical tether. Just as the body becomes dependent on substances, it can become dependent on the highs and lows of toxic love, the intermittent affection, the moments of sweetness scattered between rejection or withdrawal. Act like doses of a drug. They light up your brain with relief, not joy, but temporary reprieve from the ache of absence. And just like any drug, once the high fades, the craving begins. You chase the next hit, even though it is the very thing that breaks you. This cycle infiltrates every corner of life. At work, you may find yourself overextending, desperate for approval that never truly comes. In friendships, you may settle for one-sided loyalty, giving more than you ever receive. Even in your relationship with yourself, you may notice the same pattern. Silencing your own needs, neglecting your own rest, punishing yourself for not being enough. The addiction is not confined to one person. It is a rhythm your entire being has been dancing to, often without realizing it. And here lies the cruel irony. The very bond you think keeps you safe is the one keeping you trapped. Each attempt to leave is met with panic, each return with momentary relief, each cycle deepening the groove in your nervous system. You begin to wonder if this is simply who you are, someone destined to stay in pain, someone incapable of walking away. But that is not the truth. This is not your identity. This is not fate. This is a wound playing out its script, a wound that was written long before this relationship ever began. The question we will unravel in this journey is not simply why can't you let go, but what part of you believes letting go is death. And when you trace that belief back to its origin, you will see that it was never about weakness, it was about survival. And the same vow that once saved you is the one you no longer need to carry. In this video, we will uncover why letting go feels impossible, and how to finally release the grip of trauma bond and emotional addiction without losing yourself, but instead by finding yourself again. Long before you ever met the person you can't let go of, the pattern had already begun. It didn't start in adulthood. It didn't even start in your teenage years. It began in the moments when you were a child, reaching for love with open hands, only to find that love was unreliable, inconsistent, or conditional. Maybe it came in flashes, a smile when you were good, silence when you were bad. Maybe it was withheld until you performed, obeyed, or suppressed your feelings. Or maybe it was absent altogether, leaving you to grow in the cold shadow of unmet needs. Whatever the details, your nervous system learned one truth. Love is not safe, but I need it to survive. That truth became the foundation of every bond that followed. Children do not have the luxury of walking away. You could not choose another family, another parent, another environment. So instead, your body adapted. It rewired itself to survive in a landscape where love was tangled with danger. If affection came with rejection, you learned to chase harder. If love was unpredictable, You learned to cling to even the smallest crumbs. If presence was paired with withdrawal, you learned to freeze in place, waiting for it to return. And if pain was the price of connection, then pain became something your body mistook for home. In those early years, you made silent vows that still echo through your adult life. Vows you don't remember making because they weren't spoken with words, they were etched into your nervous system. They might have sounded like, "I will not need too much. I will keep trying until they love me. I will accept pain as proof of care. I will never leave, because leaving means I will have nothing." These vows were not weakness, they were brilliance. They were the genius of a child who found a way to survive what felt unsurvivable. Without them, you might have drowned in the emptiness. With them, you endured. But endurance came at a cost. This is why, as an adult, you feel the magnetic pull toward people who mirror the very conditions you once grew inside. Not because you consciously want pain, but because your body recognizes it as familiar. A partner who withholds affection activates the vow, "If I try harder, I'll finally be enough." A friend who drifts in and out triggers the vow, "If I wait long enough, they'll come back." Even when your mind knows this is unhealthy, your body whispers, "This is love, this is survival, this is how we've always done it." And so the cycle repeats, not because you are broken, but because you are loyal to the child you once were. The tragedy is that this loyalty, while once life-saving, is now the very thing that keeps you bound. That inner child, still watching, still waiting, still believing the old vows, cannot tell the difference between past and present. To them, the person you can't let go of is not just a partner or a friend. They are the stand-in for the caregiver who once held your fate in their hands. Letting go of this person does not feel like losing a relationship. It feels like betraying the vow that kept you alive. It feels like abandoning yourself. But what if that wasn't true? What if letting go wasn't betrayal, but liberation? What if the loyalty you've been carrying all this time wasn't meant to be a prison, but a reminder of how far you've come, of how resourceful you were, of how powerful it was to survive it all? You are no longer the child who needed those vows to endure. You are no longer trapped in a home where love was conditional. But until you see this, until you speak the truth of where the bond began, you will keep mistaking survival for love and fear for devotion. And so we must return, not to punish or relive, but to recognize. To see that the vow was made in desperation, not destiny. To see that the bond you cannot break is not about this person today, but about the echo of a child still waiting to be chosen. And the moment you recognize this, the moment you honor that child's pain without continuing the vow, the grip begins to loosen. Not all at once, not in a single leap, but slowly, gently, as your body learns that letting go does not mean death, it means beginning again, not in survival, but in freedom. In love, the impact of trauma bonds is perhaps the most visible, yet also the most misunderstood. You may find yourself drawn to people who withhold affection, who give just enough to spark your hope, but never enough to make you feel safe. At first, the bond feels intoxicating. The highs so high, the chemistry electric, the sense of being chosen overwhelming. But beneath the rush lies a quiet despair. Every late reply, every cancelled plan, every subtle withdrawal sends your body into panic, as though the ground itself is disappearing. You chase harder. You plead silently. You make excuses for their distance. And when they return, even briefly, the relief is so powerful it feels like love. But it is not love, it is the nervous system addicted to the cycle of absence and return. In friendships, the same pattern plays out differently, but cuts just as deep. Perhaps you are always the one giving time, giving energy, giving support, while silently fearing to ask for anything in return. You convince yourself you don't need much, that being a good friend means expecting little, yet inside, you long to be met with the same devotion. And when the imbalance grows too heavy, you still don't walk away, because leaving would mean facing the echo of childhood. If I ask too much, I will be abandoned. So you stay, hoping your loyalty will eventually be rewarded, even as the silence inside you grows. In work, trauma bonds transform into cycles of overextension. You pour yourself into projects, take on responsibilities that aren't yours, and chase validation through productivity. On the outside, you might look like a model employee, the one who never says no, the one who goes above and beyond. But on the inside, you are restless, unsatisfied, hollow. No matter how much you give, the recognition you crave slips through your fingers. Your nervous system has learned to equate worth with effort, so you keep pushing, convinced that if you just do a little more, finally you will be seen. Yet every accomplishment is followed not by peace, but by the whisper, "You must keep proving yourself or you will disappear." Even in your relationship with your body, the trauma bond leaves its mark. You may feel anxious when things are too calm, restless when life becomes too quiet. Stillness feels foreign, even threatening, because your nervous system equates peace with danger. When someone tells you they love you, instead of warmth, you may feel a tightening in your chest, a suspicion that the words are too fragile to trust. Pleasure, joy, and intimacy may feel unsafe, as though letting yourself relax will only invite pain. So you armor yourself even against softness, even against care. And this too is the cycle at work. Mistaking vigilance for safety, mistaking tension for protection. Spiritually, the bond can leave you feeling cut off from yourself, as though the divine has turned silent. You may pray, meditate, or seek answers, but the numbness remains. Why? Because joy and presence are foreign when your system is wired for absence and loss. Instead of feeling whole, you feel hollow. Instead of feeling guided, you feel abandoned. And yet, you keep reaching, not because you are failing, but because the child inside you still remembers the hunger for connection. You are not faithless. You are faithful to the bond that once kept you alive. The most devastating part is that even when you see the pattern, even when you tell yourself, "This time I'll choose differently," the pull doesn't vanish. Your body still craves what it has always known. It is like being addicted to fire while longing for water. You know the burn hurts, yet the flames are magnetic. And each time you return, you confirm the vow, "I cannot survive without this." Pain is better than emptiness. To let go is to die. This is the prison of trauma bonds, not that you don't see them, but that you don't yet feel free to live without them. And if any part of these words has stirred something inside you, let it not remain silent. Share below what part of this reflection mirrors your own story. Your voice may become the sign someone else needs to see, the reminder that they are not alone in their longing, their fear, or their struggle to let go. Speaking it is not just expression, it is the first crack in the wall that keeps the bond unbroken. What if the very thing you've been calling weakness was never weakness at all? What if the reason letting go feels impossible is because long ago you made a vow, not with words you remember, but with survival itself, a vow that whispered, "I will hold on, no matter the cost. I will not let go because letting go means death." This wasn't just a thought. It was a spell woven into your nervous system, into your breath, into the very rhythm of your heartbeat. And so, every time you've tried to leave, every time you felt the urge to break free, the spell pulled you back, not because you are broken, but because you are loyal to the child who cast it. Think back to when you were small. Perhaps there was someone you needed, a parent, a caregiver, someone whose love meant survival. And maybe that love was inconsistent, unpredictable, even painful. But still, you clung. You had no choice. To let go back then truly would have meant loss, abandonment, danger. So you learned to endure absence, to mistake chaos for closeness, to equate pain with love. And your nervous system, wise in its own way, said, "This is how we live. This is how we survive." The vow was set in stone, not by malice, but by necessity. That vow has never left. It followed you into adulthood, shaping every bond, every longing, every moment of attachment. It is why a part of you feels safer in turbulence than in calm. It is why silence feels unbearable, why distance feels like death. The spell whispers better to hold on and hurt than to let go and vanish. And so you hold on, even when the holding burns, even when it shatters you, even when a part of you knows the bond is toxic. Your system is not betraying you. It is fulfilling the promise it once made, to keep you alive at any cost. The paradox is that what once saved you is now what chains you. Imagine carrying an umbrella long after the storm has ended. At first it shielded you from the rain, but now it only keeps the sun from touching your skin. Or picture locking every door in your house because once, long ago, someone walked away and left you unsafe. The locks were protection then, but now they keep love out as much as danger. This is the essence of trauma bonds. What once kept you alive now keeps you from truly living. When you begin to see this clearly, shame starts to loosen its grip. You realize you are not weak for staying, not foolish for returning, not broken for feeling addicted to someone who hurts you. You are honoring an ancient survival spell. You are carrying out a promise your younger self believed was necessary. And when you see it through this lens, something shifts inside you. You stop attacking yourself for the bond, and you start listening to what it has been protecting all along. This awareness does not dissolve the bond instantly, but it does begin to weaken the illusion that you are powerless. You can begin to say, I see you. I know why you're here. I know you once saved me, but I no longer need you in the same way. That is the first crack in the spell, the first light through the wall. Not ripping the vow apart, but gently reminding yourself that survival and wholeness are not the same thing. You needed survival then. You can allow wholeness now. And here lies the beginning of freedom. Not in forcing yourself to let go, not in condemning yourself for holding on, but in recognizing that what feels like compulsion is loyalty. Loyalty to a child who once did everything possible to stay alive. That child can be thanked. That vow can be honored. And then, gently, slowly, it can be released. For you are no longer that child, no longer trapped in that house of danger. You are here, alive, ready to live beyond survival. Once you see that the bond you keep returning to is not weakness but an ancient vow, you are finally free to stop waging war against yourself. This shift is subtle yet profound. Instead of saying, "Why am I so broken that I can't leave?" you begin to whisper, "Of course I stayed. I was keeping myself alive." That whisper is the turning point. Because when you stop calling your survival shameful, you open space for something new to arrive. The very energy you once used to cling can now be used to soften, to expand, to risk glimpses of freedom. The question then becomes, if my body no longer needs this bond to survive, what does it long for instead? And here, something astonishing emerges. Beneath the fear, beneath the shame, beneath the compulsion to repeat, there is still a part of you who remembers joy, the one who laughed without needing permission, the one who ran barefoot without fear of falling, the one who believed that life was good simply because it was alive. That joy was never destroyed by trauma. It was buried, protected, hidden under the vow. And now that you are strong enough to face the truth, you are also strong enough to let joy return. This is why the healing journey is not only about cutting ties with pain, but about reawakening what was lost. And joy is not trivial, not an accessory to healing. It is medicine. Joy teaches your nervous system that love can feel safe. It reminds your body that rest is not danger. It awakens creativity, spontaneity, and trust, the very qualities that trauma bonds try to strangle. Without joy, healing becomes mechanical, a constant battle against shadows. With joy, healing becomes alchemy, pain transforming into presence, survival shifting into wholeness. And this is where the doorway opens. Because the wound of trauma bonding does not only keep you stuck in painful relationships, it also buries the part of you who knows how to play, how to breathe, how to feel alive. If this video has been the mirror showing you why letting go feels impossible, the next step is to reclaim the energy that makes it possible to live. That's why I created the Inner Child Secret to Reclaiming Joy and Finally Feeling Whole. You'll find the link in the description below. In that teaching, we uncover how your nervous system buries joy under survival, and why reclaiming playfulness is not indulgence but necessity. Without joy, you cannot fully heal, because joy is the bridge back to yourself. When you are ready, step into that doorway. It will not ask you to abandon your pain. It will invite you to see what has always been beneath it, the part of you untouched by trauma, the part that still knows how to laugh, to trust, to love. Because healing is not about endlessly dissecting wounds. It is about remembering that you were never only wounded, you were also once whole. And that wholeness is not gone, it waits beneath the rubble, asking to be uncovered. Even before you take that next step, feel this truth in your body. The bond you couldn't release was never proof of your weakness. It was proof of your strength, your loyalty, your devotion to survival. And now, the same devotion can be turned inward, toward freedom instead of captivity. You no longer have to cling to what hurts you to feel alive. You no longer have to mistake chaos for intimacy. You no longer have to equate pain with love. The walls can soften, the vow can dissolve, and your hands can finally open. So carry this with you. You were never broken, only hidden. The child who clung is now safe. The adult who listens is now ready. And the life that once felt like endless repetition can now feel like a beginning. If these words found you, it was never by accident. Stay close, subscribe, so you don't miss the next step in this journey. Because your inner child will keep speaking, and together we will keep listening.